Hi, kids. Welcome to another episode of Bible Stories with Your Mom. Today, we are picking up where we left off last time in the middle of chapter 11, middle of page 143. I do not anticipate we will get through this chapter today. We will take it a little bit at a time. I think maybe one more episode after this, and we will be through chapter 11. I did do some looking up of things and I mean, as always, of course, I mess up names. I didn't mess them up as bad as I thought I might have. Oh, having a moment of paranoia. Hold on. Oh, yep, my green light's on. Didn't mess them up as bad as I thought, but alas, I always mess things up. What's new? Wouldn't be Bible stories with your mom if I didn't mess it up. So, um, I did look up Joash, and it is pronounced Joash. Yay for the Old Testament. That's all I got to say. Let's go. Joash was only 7 when he began his rule that lasted 40 years. Joash faithfully served the Lord during I looked this one up too. Jehoiada's. I feel like I got Jehoiada's. Joash faithfully served the Lord during Jehoiada's lifetime. The high priest chose 2 wives for Joash. Joash ordered the temple repaired. After consulting with Jehoiada, he ordered the Levites to collect. Got ahead of myself. He ordered the Levites to collect a tax for maintaining the temple. He had also had a special chest made and placed at the entrance of the temple so that people could voluntarily give offerings to the Lord. The people were so grateful for the opportunity that they quickly filled the chest with silver. When it was full, the Levites would bring it to the royal accountant, then return the empty chest to the temple. They did this daily until they had collected large sums. Joash and Jehoiada used the money to pay skilled workers for the temple's restoration. They also had enough money to make some furniture out of gold and silver. Jehoiada lived until he was 130 years old. He was honored with burial in the cemetery of the kings because he had done so much good for God in his temple. But after the death of Jehoiada, Judah committed apostasy. The leading officials convinced Joash to abandon the temple and to worship Asherah poles and idols. The Lord was angry with Judah and Jerusalem. He sent prophets to call them back to himself. However, they ignored the prophets and even killed Jehoiada's son Zechariah, who courageously said, "Why have you disobeyed the Lord's commands? Because you have abandoned the Lord, he will abandon you." We've heard that one before, haven't we? Though Zechariah was Jehoiada's son, um, Joash ordered him stoned to death. As Zechariah was dying, he said to Joash, "May the Lord see what you have done and avenge my death." The Lord did, using military defeat to punish Joash. I have to keep on looking at my notes because it's so weird. Anyway, though the Arameans attacked with a small force, the Lord helped them defeat Judah. They wiped out its leaders and plundered the nation. Joash was badly wounded, and some of his officials plotted to kill him for the murder of Jehoiada's son. 2 hitmen assassinated him on his bed. He was buried in Jerusalem, but not in the royal cemetery. Amaziah, Joash's son, ruled 25 years. He was a godly king, but not totally devoted to the Lord. As soon as he consolidated his power, he executed his father's assassins. He didn't kill their children because the law of Moses prohibited punishing children for the sins of their fathers. Thank goodness for that. He increased the size of the army to 300,000 and recruited 100,000 troops from Israel. However, a prophet warned him that the Lord would not help him in battle if he used troops from the northern kingdom. Though Amaziah had paid him 7,500 pounds of silver, he sent them back to Israel. They were outraged. Amaziah fought Edomites in the Valley of Salt and killed 10,000. He captured another 10,000 and threw them off the top of a cliff. During this battle, though, the soldiers from Israel he had turned away raided towns in the north, killing 3,000 and capturing large quantities of plunder. Amaziah angered the Lord by worshiping idols he had captured. A prophet rebuked him, saying, "Why worship the gods of Edomites that could not save their own people from you?" Amaziah interrupted and said, "Stop prophesying, or else you will be killed." He stopped, but warned Amaziah the Lord would destroy him because of his idolatry, and refused to listen. After consulting with his advisors, Amaziah, uh, Amaziah, I, you know, I'm going to say it wrong, decided to attack Israel. He challenged King Jehoash to meet him in battle, but Jehoash ridiculed Amaziah. "You are proud because you have defeated Edom, but I advise you to stay home. You will only bring disaster on yourself and Judah." Amaziah didn't listen. When the two armies fought Beth Shemesh, a town in Judah, Judah was defeated and Amaziah captured. Jehoash, I feel like, Jehoash then destroyed part of the wall of Jerusalem, seized treasures from the temple and palace, and took hostages back to Israel. Amaziah outlived Jehoash, yet was killed in a conspiracy. He tried to flee, but his assassins tracked him down. He was buried in Jerusalem in the royal cemetery. Uzziah was only 16 when he was crowned king, and he ruled 52 years. He was taught by Zechariah the prophet to respect the Lord, and because he looked to the Lord for guidance, he was highly successful. Uzziah was an aggressive military leader and an industrious builder. His army consisted of more than 300,000 highly trained and well equipped soldiers. He expanded his kingdom to the south by defeating the Philistines, the Arabs, and the Ammonites. He fortified the walls of Jerusalem and built forts at strategic locations in the desert. He loved the soil and built cisterns to provide water for his livestock farms and vineyards. He became famous and powerful, but his success was also his downfall, as of many men. He became strong, he became proud. When he became strong, he became proud. He ignored the priestly laws regarding worship in the temple and offered incense on the sacred altar. The high priest and 80 other priests had the courage to reprimand him. It is the duty of the priests who are descendants of Aaron to offer incense, not the king. Get out of the holy place because you have sinned, and the Lord will not honor you. Uzziah was furious with the high priest, but while he was ranting and raging, leprosy broke out on his forehead. The priests rushed him out of the temple. Uzziah wanted to leave because he knew the disease was the Lord's judgment. He lived in isolation and was banned from the temple for the rest of his life. Uzziah was buried in the cemetery of the kings, but in a separate burial plot because of his leprosy. His son Jotham was unable to keep the people from sinning. Like his father, he continued the construction of defensive fortifications in Jerusalem and Judah. He forced the Ammonites to pay an annual tribute and became powerful because he obeyed God. Jotham's son Ahaz was evil. He followed the example of Israel's kings and worshipped Baal. He offered human sacrifices in the valley of Ben Hinnom, which is south of Jerusalem, and he sacrificed his own son, imitating the horrible sins of the pagan nations the Lord had driven from the land. Because of his apostasy, Ahaz suffered terrible military losses. When threatened by Syria's king Rezin, maybe it's Rezin, and Israel's king Pekah, Isaiah the prophet urged Ahaz to ask the Lord for help. He refused. "No, I will not test the Lord by asking for a sign." Isaiah rebuked Ahaz, saying, "Though you won't trust the Lord, he will not abandon his people. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son. He will be called Emmanuel, which means God with us." The New Testament writers consider this promise a prediction of the virgin birth of Jesus Christ. I would happen to agree. Ahaz was defeated by Syrians, who took captives to Damascus and Israel, who killed 120,000 of Judah's soldiers in one single day. In one battle, the king's son, palace commander, and second in command were killed. 200,000 women and children were captured and taken to Samaria. When Israel's army arrived in Samaria with the prisoners, the prophet Obed met them and said, "The Lord God was angry with Judah and let you defeat them. But you have not shown them mercy, and God is watching you. Don't make them slaves. Instead, return them to their families." Some of the leaders confronted the victorious soldiers and declared, "Don't bring the captives here. Don't make our guilt worse. It is already great, and the Lord is very angry with us." The soldiers released the prisoners and returned the plunder. Good for them. The leaders took clothes and sandals from the plunder and gave them to the prisoners who were naked. They gave them food and water and dressed their wounds. They placed the ones who couldn't walk on donkeys and brought them to their own people in Jericho. Because Ahaz was so unfaithful to the Lord, there was no end of trouble for him. When the Edomites and Philistines invaded Judah, Ahaz asked the king of Assyria, that one trips me up a lot, for help, but the Assyrians, instead of attacking Ahaz's enemies, attacked Judah. Ahaz was forced to rob the temple and some of his own officials to pay tribute to the Assyrians. Paying tribute didn't help, so Ahaz decided to worship the gods of Damascus, the Syrian capital city, since the Syrians had defeated him. But instead of strengthening Judah, the worship of foreign gods led to spiritual ruin. Ahaz closed the temple, set up altars to foreign gods on every street corner in Jerusalem, and offered sacrifices to other gods throughout Judah. This, this infuriated the Lord God, who had made a covenant with his people. When Ahaz died, he was buried in Jerusalem, but not in the royal cemetery. That is where we will end for today, kids. I have to be a little proud of myself because I didn't trip up on my words too awfully bad, but I'm not a lot proud of myself because of all the horrible the job I did yesterday. At any rate, um, tomorrow we will finish up with chapter 11 and see what comes after that. I love you.